I don't normally do that, but I'll do that today. I'll filibuster. So, how you doing, Mr. Pluta? Great job. And did you guys see, now, so Mauger, they tell me Mauger's going to be in here, so that'll be interesting. But, you know, Mauger, all he does on his, do you notice when Mauger tweets and writes his articles, he's always very negative toward me. But I listened to Rick Pluta's podcast, or is that a radio show or a podcast?
Both.
Yeah, what's it called? It's Just Politics. Now, Mauger in there actually admitted that I got the loudest applause at the Trump rally. He won't put that in his stories. You have to listen to Pluta's podcast, but I don't know what this, he said I got the loudest applause at the Trump rally, and he's right about that. And he also said, that I clearly have a great relationship with President Trump and that the base really likes what I'm doing. And Pluta, you jumped in. I couldn't jump in fast enough to say, that's true, the base loves what I'm doing. So thank you for that, Rick. It's a great podcast you have. You can come up, Bill, if you want. This is a really good podcast. You should listen to it. It's the only place where Mauger is honest, is on the podcast. So it was really good. I don't know how you get him to do that, Rick, but you're nice to him? Oh, that's good. Yeah, it's really good. It was a good podcast. And Gina might come. We're going to invite Gina. Where's Gina? Oh, we'll bring Gina up. Yeah. We got to recap the week and then talk about a few things. So thank you for waiting. I know there were a lot of people on the stream, but we had some really important work to do for northern Michigan. We just passed a $100 million supplemental for northern Michigan to help with the emergency up there to ensure that their local governments and counties have the funding they need to deal with that emergency. And I thought it was important, you know, because they're telling me up in northern Michigan, some of these local governments have already spent their entire budgets for the year dealing with this emergency and all the problems. So we wanted to act immediately to move that process forward with the $100 million they need. And I think people know that I've met with President Trump recently. I met with him in the Oval Office. I met with him in his car, and we talked about how important it is to fund this northern Michigan emergency, and we'll see what FEMA does. But you know, if we do this, my understanding is, you know, they require a 25% match from the state, and so I think by moving forward with this, we're demonstrating to FEMA and the Trump administration that, you know, we're committed and we're gonna fund this, and we're hopeful that they'll make a decision to fund it too. But moving quickly on that is really important. That's what we're doing. I've got a lot to talk about today. I'm very excited, but I do want to talk about what we did this week. I mean, you look today at the rice generators conversation. I thought that was really important. What great leadership by Carl Bonak from Marquette, and David Preston and Greg Markkinen. Great job they're doing. And what I thought was particularly cool about it is you saw the UAW and the steel workers get behind this important legislation. Clearly the Democrats got it wrong when they passed their bill to ban natural gas, ban fossil fuels by 2040. And remember, Jen Hill, who was the Upper Peninsula lawmaker at the time, she did absolutely nothing about this. She enthusiastically supported the legislation, and it's my understanding that Jen Hill was even working against this legislation over the last couple weeks. Now, you know, fortunately, the UAW didn't listen, the steel workers didn't listen, and very few of the Democrats listened. You see, the Democrats, they just voted to do this last year, and then you already see many Democrats voting to repeal this and to make an exception for those rice generators, something that Jen Hill worked against. But you know, and Carl Bonak, I think he did such a great job in his speech, but I mean, you just look at if we don't do something about these rice generators, how you're going to see the monthly charges increasing, including $80 a month for residential properties in the Upper Peninsula, $3,500 a month for commercial properties. It's quite a bit of higher rates. And remember, when we're looking at energy policy, we need affordability and reliability, and that is not affordable or reliable. So I was happy to see the unions support our efforts, and so many Democrats vote to repeal part of that energy law. And so we'll see what happens in the do-nothing Senate, but hopefully they'll listen to the UAW and the steel workers and move forward with that. So that was really important, I thought. Today, I was so pleased with the bipartisan support that we had for our Gulf of America resolution. I thought Matt Maddock did a great job on that. But also, I saw big bipartisan support for our Asian carp resolution. And I think that's really important. Hopefully you listened to the testimony today in the Natural Resources Committee. You look at that committee, David Martin's doing a great job there, but you hear the testimony. You listen to Greg Van Werkum talk about this. I mean, this is something we've been working on since 2010, probably earlier. I worked for Bill Schuette at the time when he was Attorney General, the other Bill Schuette. You remember that, Bill?
Oh, yeah, that was a big fight.
His dad worked hard on that. And so I just want to point out, you know, Obama didn't help us with this at all. In fact, there were a lot of theories about Obama and some of the interests over in Chicago and Illinois obstructing this. Now, you move forward, the Michigan House has committed, I believe, $73 million. The state of Michigan has, right, including the Michigan House. And what we wanted to make clear is the state of Michigan is committed to this Brandon Road solution and to funding this and supporting this. You saw myself and Governor Whitmer meet with President Trump in the Oval Office, where I stepped in and led this conversation. And this was something that the governor and I discussed with President Trump when he was here last week, when we were in his car and talking to him and meeting with him. And I'll just point out, he continues to reiterate, both in the public meetings and in the private meetings, that he's going to help us solve this problem. So President Trump is committed to solving this problem to keep the Asian carp out of the Great Lakes. The state of Michigan is committed. And what we're really trying to do, whether it's in the conversations with President Trump or in the resolution that the Michigan House passed today, is we need the Illinois governor to follow through and to continue to fund this project. Now, the state of Illinois at one time had committed to joining the federal government and the state of Michigan to fund this solution for the Brandon Road and to keep the Asian carp out of the Great Lakes. Now, it's my understanding, they have Asian carp in their rivers and things like that. I get that. But what you see is their governor, Pritzker, blaming President Trump for why he's backing out of the deal. I suspect that the Illinois Governor Pritzker doesn't want to do this deal, and rather than just own up to it, he's trying to blame President Trump. So we've seen President Trump commit to this. I think you're going to see President Trump commit further to this in the near future. We'll see. But he's committed to it, and we need this Illinois governor to step up, Pritzker, who is killing this deal, and rather than owning up to it, blaming President Trump. He probably fit into our state Senate pretty well. All he does is blame other people. That's all he does, but criticize others. But we need him to step up. Look at the great success Governor Whitmer is having by working with Republicans, and rather than just lobbing insults at the other side and blaming the other side, embracing President Trump and embracing the House Republicans. So I think Pritzker could learn a lot from what Governor Whitmer has been doing, and we need him to step up here, honor his word, and fund this Brandon Road project. And I think President Trump is committed to it, and you're going to see him commit further. So we're going to keep working on that. It's critical to our Great Lakes. These Asian carp, they come in, they reproduce very quickly, they eat up everything in the ecosystem, and this is a great threat to our Great Lakes, to our sport fishing, to the entire industry. And once they get into Lake Michigan, they're going to get into all the other lakes. So there's very high stakes, and we need to move quickly. I was very proud of that today. I thought we did some really great things for northern Michigan. Parker Fairbarn, Cam Cavett, been doing a great job. John Roth, Ken Borton. Yesterday it was pretty cool to see 110 legislators react to the leadership of Cam Cavett and ensure that we're moving forward to forgive the school days of all the kids up in those areas affected by that ice storm. And think about the things those kids have gone through and their families. And these people would be in school well into July if we don't do something. So I was happy to see everybody come together behind that, and I hope the Senate takes action soon. And then secondly, I thought they did a really good job on the supplemental today. We're for $100 million to make sure we do that. So I was really pleased with what we saw there. I did want to allow our two legislators here, Rep. Gina Johnson and Rep. Bill Schuette. I wanted to make sure that they had an opportunity to talk a little bit about the foreign influence package, which we did this week, which was a very big deal. We need to stop these foreign countries and from receiving our tax dollars. companies that are loyal to other countries that are threatening us, like China, but also, ensuring that these foreign adversaries are not buying up our farmland. And so I'll turn it over, I guess, first to Rep. Gina Johnson. Do you want to go first, Gina, or do you want Bill? Gina? Sure. You did really well yesterday on the floor, so I think they want to hear from you first. So why don't you go ahead?
Very good. Thank you. Today I'm proud to stand with Speaker Hall and Representative Schuette in support of a comprehensive plan to stop foreign adversaries like Communist China, North Korea, and Iran from gaining a foothold in our state. This plan closes dangerous loopholes and strengthens Michigan's defenses against growing foreign influence. We've already seen Chinese nationals surveilling the Camp Grayling, foreign companies buying land near military sites, and Michigan tax dollars subsidizing the Chinese Communist Party-linked battery plants. It's time to draw the line. This initiative takes strong, targeted action. It blocks foreign adversaries from purchasing Michigan farmland, prevents our public schools and universities from partnering with hostile governments, bans dangerous foreign apps and tech on government devices, and ensures taxpayer dollars don't fund our enemies. One key component of the plan protects Michigan farmland from being acquired by foreign entities tied to hostile regimes. This land is not just soil, it's our food supply and our future. The measure is narrowly crafted with common sense exceptions and includes strong enforcement tools. National security starts at home. This plan puts Michigan first and helps keep our communities, economy, and critical infrastructure safe. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Gina. Thank you, Speaker Hall, for this opportunity and for the leadership on this package. And I think it's just another example of House Republicans taking and enacting the agenda that we ran on last election with our mission for Michigan. And we talked about the importance of addressing foreign influence in our state in the last election. I think that's part of the reason we received such a strong mandate in the last election. And it's something we're taking immediate action on. And why is this important? Why is this something we need to work on? Well, we live in a dangerous world, right? And what we're seeing is our foreign adversaries, nations that want to hurt us, nations that want to harm us, nations like China, like North Korea, like Iran. They are taking the same types of tactics that I saw when I was an intelligence officer with the Department of Defense. They're using these same tactics that they use in foreign countries. They're using them here at home in Michigan. And it's really a new era of foreign competition where this is not just nation versus nation. You're seeing China try and subvert us on the state level. So that's why it's so important that states like Michigan, and I think we're really setting an example across America right now about how we can step up and address these challenges here at home. And we know this is important because we've seen things like foreign espionage operations at Camp Grayling. We've seen the fact that there are Confucius institutes that are trying to manipulate and bend curriculum in our schools and in our universities that try to spread anti-American propaganda. Those things are concerning. And so what we as a state should be doing is making sure that when these countries are trying to undermine us at every turn, trying to take economic, political, and social levers of power against us, we should be doing everything we can as a state to keep our homeland safe. And that's why I think the legislation that we introduced is so impactful. We do things like make sure that, when these countries are trying to harm us and they're trying to hurt us and they're trying to undermine us, maybe we shouldn't give them taxpayer dollars, right? Maybe we shouldn't give them state subsidies. And it sounds crazy, but we've seen what the Democrats have done in the last 2 years. Very important legislation. And we've made sure that in our state procurement, in our state devices, in the ways that our state and public bodies are operating, we're not opening the door for influence from these countries that are really trying to hurt our nation and hurt the state of Michigan. So I think this is another example of House Republicans delivering on our promises, and an example of us leading the nation in ways that will help make Michigan a better state and a safer state. So appreciate the opportunity to lead on this package, and every single bill in the package got bipartisan support. So I would hope that again is a good way where we can lead and continue to work and make these bills become law. So thank you.
Some Democrats learned from the last election, so that was good. We got a bipartisan vote on every bill. I'll work through a few more issues. You'll be impressed. I actually wrote some notes today. You believe that? I know, and I have some articles. So I just thought I'd do that. But I know we're changing things. No, I just thought, number one, I mean, you look at what the Senate Republicans are doing on earmark transparency. I think that's really coming along nicely. I mean, you look at the House Republicans led on this, and we created a new House rule to force the politicians to disclose their earmark spending in the budget. And you look at it, in the past, we didn't know what it was until well after the election, or excuse me, well after the vote. It was like a year after the vote, we'd find out in some of your news stories what it was. So we force all the politicians, put your name on it in advance by May 1, disclose what the project is, tell us what the public purpose is, how much money is it, and when is the project going to be complete. So I thought that was really good. And I just thought, I like to read the stuff that you guys write. From Craig Mauger right here, I underline this. Where's Craig? See this? Look at this. Now, Craig says, it's pretty awesome for people across Michigan to finally be able to see which projects in their communities their lawmakers are spending their time trying to fund. Now, of course, Craig gives me no credit, just attacks, but unless you listen to Rick Pluta's secret podcast where he says that I got the loudest applause at the Trump rally, which was true, I guess something that obvious you probably can't not give me credit for. But you see this? No credit to the speaker. What? I see. And then back here, you think he would have said, probably, I'm surprised there's not something on here that tries to attack me on some other bill, but Craig likes it, so we're happy to help you with that, Craig. And we look forward to your guys' journalism on it because we're going to learn a lot about the projects, right? I mean, we're joking with Craig, but we're going to learn a lot about the projects by all of you looking at them, evaluating. We're going to be looking at them. We're going to be evaluating. You're going to have committee hearings where they talk about some of these proposals and learn about them. So I think we're going to have a much better process because of my leadership and the House Republicans. And I just want to read you this. This was pretty funny. I thought this is probably the funniest thing I read all week from the Ultimate Lansing Insider, Sarah Anthony. This was on Channel 7 News in Detroit. Very good. When you get covered on Channel 7, you're doing something right. This is what this is what they say. Now, first of all, they did give me credit. They said, for the first time, lawmakers in the Michigan House are being required to disclose their earmark wish list weeks before final budget approvals. It was a major change made under Hall, the new House Speaker. But this is where it gets funny. Okay. While Republicans are taking credit for the new disclosure requirements, Senator Sarah Anthony said that it was her party that first required lawmakers' names to be attached to any earmarks in the 2023 state budget. Now, I had to laugh when I read that because, what is it? It's like they told me that they put their names on it months and months after the vote. So the vote happens, and then months and months after, somebody puts their name on it. Now, you see some of them, the politicians, no one will put their name on it. So some politician comes forward and says, I didn't know anything about this, but I guess I put my name on it. And then they told me in Sarah Anthony's rules, if no one puts their name on it, it just defaults to the department, okay? So I find it very funny that the ultimate Lansing insider, Sarah Anthony, the person that funded all these buildings around here that are empty, is saying that she's the one that first required lawmaker names to be attached to earmarks, and she's equating her position to the position that I'm championing, which is real transparency. And that's just what you're going to see from these fake Senate transparency proposals, whether it's FOIA, watered down FOIA, or this. They're weak. They don't do anything. And you look at HEAT, the Hall Ethics, Accountability, and Transparency Program, plan, the Hall Ethics, Accountability, and Transparency Plan. I haven't brought that up in a few weeks, so I'm a little rusty. But you look at the HEAT plan, okay, and I had a department head in my office today, and I gave him a poster for him to post up at his work site. Now, that would require his department workers to be at work, but if they are at work, they will see the poster and they will know that HEAT is coming to their department, the Hall Ethics, Accountability, and Transparency Plan. So that is real transparency, real ethics, and real accountability in government, and you're seeing some reporters recognize that, and it's a positive thing. We're improving the process. The things that I've done and the House Republicans have done are the biggest transparency reforms we've seen in many years in Lansing. So hopefully we all take a moment to recognize that and also to report accurately on it, that this would not have happened without me or the House Republicans winning the last election and being leaders in this town, and that the Senate Democrats are the only caucus in this town that is not embracing the transparency. I mean, you saw, even though the weak, ineffective leader, Ranjiv Puri, told them not to, they all put projects online. I think it was every Democrat except for him in the House put projects online. Now the Senate Republicans are putting projects online. It is spreading. We just need Sarah Anthony, the ultimate Lansing insider, and the Senate Democrats to join us. Even Governor Whitmer agrees with me on this. I'll just point out about the, did you guys see this poll that MIDA did? It was in some of the reporting, the Michigan, Infrastructure and Transportation Association, MIDA. So they did a poll, 67% of Michigan residents support my plan for the roads. They believe that we can fix our roads without raising taxes if we just put the money into local roads and prioritize local roads over giveaways for the 8 or 10 most connected corporations in Michigan, and we stop all the pork projects. So I think that's very interesting. Now, the only thing that Powell's higher than that is probably the HEAT plan, the Hall Ethics, Accountability, and Transparency Plan. I bet that's well over 67%. But the MIDA poll, they say, we support Matt Hall, the Speaker's plan to fix our roads without raising taxes. And I thought it was very interesting. I don't know, I wish Gorchow was here. Maybe he would tell us, but when was the, what's that?
Stuck with me.
He's always doing business deals, isn't he? I mean, how many deals does that guy do a day? But anyway, he doesn't report, but he writes, he must do a lot of deals. Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, Gorchow, we'll see what he says, but I just say, I mean, that's got to be the record for most number of millages that failed in one day. That was a lot of millages that failed. It was like half of the millages. And what Gretchen Whitmer thinks that we should do is we should raise everybody's taxes to fix the roads. I mean, I've never seen that many millages fail. There were 3 millages in my district. They all failed. Parchment, Otsego, Alamo Township, they all failed. And so I think the people of Michigan are saying, like, in a lot of ways, they don't want higher taxes right now, and they said it in the election last night. And yet, what Gretchen Whitmer's plan for the roads is to raise the corporate income tax on every corporation in Michigan, to create a delivery tax, to create a marijuana tax, to create a vape tax and ban all the flavors. Who will use vape if we ban all the flavors? Nobody uses the tobacco vape. But you look at all the taxes they want to raise on everyone, and Very interesting. You talk to Democrats, they will say tariffs are paid by the consumers. That's what they claim. But somehow these higher taxes don't get paid by consumers. That's what Democrats say. I would suggest that if they are so adamant that tariffs are paid by consumers, now Trump says, and I heard him say, a lot of these countries are going to eat the tariffs, but what we know here is that the consumers are going to pay these higher taxes proposed by the Democrats. And the public is telling us with all these millages that went down in flames yesterday, they don't want the higher taxes. You look through these things. It was very interesting. I saw Jocelyn Benson's book came out today. Is that true? Do you know? Yesterday? And did you guys see in the Midwesterner, it's already on the discount rack at Barnes & Noble. Already, not surprised. But I look at this. This is a very interesting story in the Midwesterner. I hope you read it. It says, contractor for Jocelyn Benson's bungled transparency network faces serious reckoning in Illinois. I mentioned Jocelyn Benson has a $9 million website that does not work. I'll just point out, and Elena's here. Elena had a great tweet where she pointed out that you are now, the Department of State is now asking for a username and password to view campaign finance filings for elected officials. You go through this and you look, Craig Mauger, the Michigan campaign finance disclosure site is not working the way it should. It hasn't for months. This directly hinders the ability of reporters and the public to find out who's financially supporting lawmakers while they make decisions that affect all of us. Now, if the website worked, you'd find out that the House Republicans outraised everybody. You'd see that we raised more money in the first quarter than we ever have. I probably raised more money than anyone except for the governor, but you don't know that because you can't find it on the website. And if you do look it up, Benson's probably going to track you, so I'd be very careful if you're looking at her numbers. We certainly, according to this, according to the Midwesterner, this investigation revealed that the company, Tyler, officials have a history of donating campaign funds to Democrat elected officials running for offices in need of modernization. So that's what they claim. But you won't see it on there because if they donated to her, you won't see it on there because the website doesn't work. I think we need a House Oversight investigation into this website. And you look at all these other states, it's incredible. You read this story. They found 18 federal lawsuits around the country involving controversies over Tyler's contracts, including allegations of fraud by a Michigan County 911 consortium, claiming Tyler gave false assurances about its technology. In North Carolina, Tyler Technologies faced multiple lawsuits in 2023 as it transitioned the state's court records to a digitized system. All kinds of problems in Illinois. This was supposed to cost $75 million to update the Cook County their websites, and they're already at $265 million with no end in sight in Cook County. So all kinds of problems with Tyler Technologies, the hand-picked contractor for Jocelyn Benson's website that doesn't work. I think it's time for Jocelyn Benson to stop promoting her book, to stop campaigning for governor, and fix her website so we can see how much money is being given to politicians. But also, you try to look at the lobby disclosures, you can't see anything on there. And we have upcoming filings for the politicians to disclose their finances, which you cannot do. You can't even file these things because the website doesn't work. And that deadline is what, next week, next Thursday? It's a total mess, and it's not a good thing, and the House Oversight is going to investigate all of this. And great work by the Midwesterner on covering that. I didn't know any of that when I called on the House Oversight Committee to investigate this, but there's a lot of good reporting going on out there. I'll just look at this, reading my notes. Yeah, and just so you know, I mean, I read these stories in the press about Winnie Brinks, and now her lawyer calls her Willie Brinks. Do you see that? Mark Brewer, who's a total hack. You read these filings, and they're losing in every court in this state to me and the House Republicans, okay? And you read this, and these guys, this is such a bad attorney, he calls her Willie Brinks. I mean, how are they going to beat us in a case if they don't even know her name? So, you know, I mean, we continue to beat her in every court in this state while they're suing me. You know, they've never sued the House in the history of this state. They're suing me. They're losing everywhere. And then Winnie Brinks, I won't call her Willie, only her attorney does that. Winnie Brinks, okay, then she makes up this whole story on Rick Albin's show claiming that she was been desperately trying to meet with me. So I'll just walk through this one last time because I read a lot of false reporting on this because for some reason the Senate Democrats are trying so hard to spin all you guys on this. But just to walk through this timeline, they asked for a meeting in February and I met with her. We met. This was before the sick leave and tip credit. Okay? We met, and we couldn't meet in person because Ranjiv Puri, you know, he's never in the Capitol. I mean, if you went down there right now, I would bet all the lights are out. If you come in tomorrow or Friday, all the lights will be out in that office. They're not here. But, so he's never in the Capitol, so we had to do it on Zoom. But we met. We worked through the sick leave and tip credit deal. We got a deal. I asked Winnie, I said, do you need to meet? She said, no. You've been meeting with Sam Singh, we have it. We did not get another request until I was with President Trump the night before my press conference, which was after the Rick Albin interview. And then these people, I have been trying to meet with him. I'll just say this, okay? I've met with Gretchen Whitmer many times. I've appeared on stage with her. You see me doing it with Mike Duggan. You see me doing it with Warren Evans, Mark Hackel. We've had Alabaz Farhad in our press conferences. I've not met with Winnie Brinks yet since February, but I'll say this. I mean, I'm going to meet with any Democrat that's willing to work together and be serious about getting things done. And you see, so you can see which Democrats I'm meeting with and which Democrats I'm not. And you can draw your own conclusions based on that. But I'll just say this. We are trying desperately to get roads done, education reform, focusing on real-life skills. We're working on public safety trust fund. And the Democrats want to negotiate all of these things in private and in back rooms, just like they did on their budget, just like they do with their earmarks, just like they did on that energy bill. You remember? I mean, we had to ban the governor's staff from coming on the House floor. That was one of the first things I did as Speaker. I mean, what they used to do is they would bring in like 12 people that work for the governor, and they would surround these lawmakers' desks and bully them into voting for these things. Remember, they did that to Kofia, they did that to many of the Democrats, and then they break and they vote for it. So I'll just say you know, we're working on it, but we need the Democrats to step up, and they should be willing to negotiate in public. They should be willing to put positive plans on the table and pass them through their chamber, and then we will negotiate. And then there's one last thing I'm going to bring up, and then we'll take any questions. I think that, you know, we can see what we're dealing with here with Ranjiv Puri and the House Democrats. You look at what happened on Thursday, and I don't think enough reporters are talking about this, but I do give Murr some credit on this. They had their breaking news headline, Dems introduce bill by mistake, House Republicans gleefully pass it. Headline, House passes Burns bill introduced by mistake. And the night they go, Ogangwer, Dems double down and twist narrative on anti-DEI bill. So I just want to put you guys through this because this is what I'm dealing with, okay? So they pass a bill, okay, and I have it here in this pile. The bill clearly is very similar to the Trump executive order on merit hiring. It very clearly is the bill that Angela Regas introduced last year. it does not at all match their description of what the bill is, okay? So it's pretty clear here what happened, right? This House Democrat didn't read the bill, introduced it, and made a mistake, and had 40 Democrats on the bill, okay? That's probably what happened. Rather than own up to this mistake, I have it right here. I'll read it. I'll just read this. It's a very short bill. It's like 1 1/4 page. It just says, the state agency shall not hire an applicant unless the state agency bases the hiring on one or more objective and merit-based factor. These include an applicant's relevant education or work experience. There's no way around that. That is merit-based hiring. That's what President Trump has been pushing for in his executive orders. That's what Angela Regis's bill does. This is ending DEI in state government, and it's requiring merit-based hiring. That's what it is, okay? What does Ranjiv Puri and the House Democrats do? Rather than just own up to their mistake, they decide, we're going to lie about what this bill is, we're all going to vote for it, and then we're going to try to spin the media into believing this bill is something it is not, okay? And I'll just say, when you're trying to negotiate deals, and this is the character of the people you're dealing with, that's why we don't deal with Ranjiv Puri. I mean, that's why we've gone to many of his members that are serious, and we try to work it out with them. And you look at every bill package we do is bipartisan: foreign influence, schools, public safety trust fund, our roads plan. They're all bipartisan. Even our budget, our emergency shutdown prevention plan was bipartisan. So I'll just point out, you know, I would never do this. If I had tried to do this as minority leader, the caucus would have removed me, okay? They would never have said, we are going to go to the press and the public, and we are going to vote for the other party's policies, and then we are going to lie to the voters and lie to the press about what we did. They would never do that. And I don't think that anyone should let them off the hook for doing this. It really raises questions of integrity and character. And when you're trying to do deals with these leaders, and that's what they do, it makes all of our jobs harder. So I'll just stop there. I know I went on a long rant, but it was structured, so we had notes. Any questions? Yes, Craig?
There's about 8 weeks remaining until the July 1st deadline to pass the budget. Will you commit right now to passing a full budget for K-12 schools by July 1st?
Well, I think you'll see we're working on an education plan, a K through 12 plan, but I'm not going to commit to that. I think that, well, because I think that we're dealing with an unserious group of people. I mean, I just explained to you, first of all, what you're dealing with Ranjiv Puri, who's not a very honest person. And then, you know, we have a Senate, and they have some ideas, and I appreciate some of the things that Camilleri's doing. I saw him on one of your shows, and I'll just say this. I mean, they want to stuff hundreds of millions of dollars of earmarks for for-profit corporations in the education budget. That's what they want to do. You're not going to see that in the plans we introduce. And so look, I mean, we have an aspirational goal of getting a budget done, but I think your question was if I'm going to commit to getting it done. I'm not going to commit to getting it done, but we are going to try, right? You're going to see plans from us and plans from them, and we're going to do the best we can. But, you know, I'd say this way, whether it's their education budget or whether it's the full budget, I just say it's a lot easier to just tack on 3% onto what you did last year, which is essentially what their budget is. I looked at their budget, they're passing, it's bigger than Whitmer's budget. Did you notice that? Whitmer's budget is what is it, 83.4 maybe billion? And the Democrats in the Senate, it's like 83.7 billion, so it's even more than Whitmer. And the interesting thing is they cross out a lot of the things that Whitmer proposes, and then they insert their own things, which is pretty interesting to watch. But I'll just say for us, we're not doing that. We're not just tacking on 3% on the top of what we did last year. We're evaluating every program in the budget for return on investment. That's hard. But if we're going to fit the roads and the income tax cut and all the things that we need to do to get value for your dollar in the budget. We evaluate every earmark that we're doing, right, through a transparent process and hearings. It's going to take more time, and that's what we're going to do. Yeah, Rick.
I know there are a couple of days ago till the deadline, but we got a response today from Jocelyn Benson on your subpoena.
Yeah.
What do you think of her response and what are the next steps?
Yeah, and I don't want to correct you, but my understanding is it came from the Attorney General. I don't want to give you the impression that Jocelyn Benson is working. She's on a book tour, and I think she's also campaigning for governor. So I think it came from Nestle. That's just me, but yeah, I think, you know, look, I mean, they produce some documents, and what do? They're like pamphlets you would get at the counter at the Secretary of State's office. They're pictures, you know, newsletters, right? I mean, we're asking for training manuals because we want to see whether these local clerks are being trained according to the law. We know that Jocelyn Benson has a history of not training them according to the law, and she lost in court as a result. We could ask our local clerks, but if we did, then Jocelyn Benson and Dana Nessel would probably prosecute them, and we don't want to put them in that situation just for sharing with us information that should be very readily available to lawmakers. So we're going to continue to get the information that we've asked for, and they're not providing it. And, you know, I think we'll defeat them in court, just like we're defeating Winnie Brinks every week in court.
So are you saying they're going to go to court to compel compliance with this?
I think it was Jocelyn Benson who said we were going to go to court, but
She said she would fight an effort to get it.
yeah.
Everything in court.
Yeah, I think she said something to the effect a few days ago of that we were going to go to court. So if we go to court, we'll win. We'll get the information. But I think that all of you people should be concerned that they won't give us the training manuals, right? I mean, do you think they're going to give us the information when we ask Jocelyn Benson whether her workers are working in the office? We all know she won't. And then we'll have to take her to court for that too, if we have to, because we're going to find out where all these government workers are, and we're going to put them back in the office. And I've talked a lot about the Lansing Chamber of Commerce, but also this is about public service, right? I mean, the job of the government workers is to provide good customer service to the taxpayers, and when they're not in the office, we're seeing the results of that. And most people don't think they're getting good customer service out of the Secretary of State's office. It'd be interesting to see how many of these people involved in the website work from home, but they won't tell you, Craig, because of national security concerns.
But are you going to go to court? What's your next step now that you've gotten the response?
Well, I think that we can see if they comply. They've got a few days, and if it goes to court, we'll win very easily, and we'll get the training manuals. Yeah, Simon.
So a package that was introduced today by Representative Cat and others,
Uh-huh.
essentially prohibit minors from receiving their affirmative care. Is that something your caucus or personally support?
Well, I haven't looked at the specific bills. I know they were introduced, and so we're going to look more at them and see what happens in the committee. I think those were referred to Kurt Vanderwall's committee, the Health Policy Committee. So we'll see what Kurt does with them, and then I'll take them from there.
How do you feel about that policy concept, though?
I'm not aware of what the specifics of his policy concept are. I do know that, you know, and I'll just list a few things. I mean, I've opposed what the Democrats tried to do with their conversion therapy legislation, where they basically make it a crime for a professional to consult kids toward traditional genders. You know, I voted against that. I don't think you should lose your license for that. You know, we obviously feel very strongly about the boys not playing in girls' sports. So we've taken some strong positions on these things, but I'm going to have to look into the specifics of this bill, and we'll see what Kurt does in his committee with it. Any other questions? I know we went long today. Good. So I answered all the questions. Good. Yeah, go ahead, Rick.
Because it's not just training manuals. It's technology, material,
Yeah, I mean, I think that they just try to claim it's something it's not to help their position. You know what I mean? I mean, we're asking for the training manuals. They won't provide the training manuals, and then they're saying it's some kind of security risk, and then they make up all this stuff, similar to what they're doing with the state workers, where the government won't tell us who's swiping their cards. So I think when we look into this, you're going to see that these excuses they're making are not based in fact. They're just ways to shield transparency. And that's something you see a lot from Jocelyn Benson. Yeah, hey, Elena.
Not for nothing, hello. The Senate has moved a couple of budget bills. When do you think would be a reasonable time for the House to start?
What did they moved? Are they? I don't think the budget bills are in our chamber yet. I think they've moved through committee.
The
Yeah.
House hasn't moved any of
Right.
its subcommittee budget. What do you think is a reasonable timeline for
Yeah.
this to start?
And I would say this too, because I'll just start with this and then I'll answer it. You know, the Senate is waking up and moving some bills, which I give them, you know, I'm happy they are. I mean, it'd be nice to have, you know, we're moving so much legislation. It's nice when they start to wake up. But, you know, you look at the theatrics today from the House Democrats on the Gulf of America resolution, and they're trying to tie bar things to it, right? Just say, why didn't you guys do any of this stuff when you had a Democrat trifecta? I think most of you have read that when the Democrats controlled the House, they had like the fewest session days going back decades. They didn't do any of these things. And then when we're moving forward with the Gulf of America, they're saying, why aren't we doing other things? Well, I'll just say this. The Gulf of America resolution is more than what the House Democrats did for months and months of last year, okay? They did nothing. They didn't meet. They didn't have quorum. They did nothing. And then they tie bar all these things to us. And you look at their very controversial prescription drug board. What do? They introduce it. It passes the Senate, and then the next day they start blaming me. Why didn't you guys do it during your Democrat trifecta if it's such a good idea? They didn't do it. Well, because they couldn't get it done. So now they have some budget bills, and like I said, they want to tack 3% on the top. That's not what we're doing. We're going to go through every one of these budgets, looking at these programs, and we're going to eliminate the programs that aren't working, and we're going to prioritize roads, public safety, and education. You're going to see a higher per pupil foundation allowance, something the Democrats didn't do last year. First time in 10 years, they didn't give more money to our local districts through the per pupil foundation allowance. You're going to see us fully fund the Public Safety Trust Fund. We have right now police chiefs all over Michigan ready to hire more workers, more police, get them the equipment they need, and start lowering our violent crime rates. And then we're going to fix our roads without raising taxes by prioritizing roads over the big corporations. And then you're going to see us do a lot of really good things in that budget. So we just have to fund the best programs and not fund the ones that don't work. And that takes a little longer than just tacking on 3% to what they've always done. I mean, we have to look at these grant programs. You look at the Arts Council, I mean, that's unbelievable. They're spending money on glass blowing, all kinds of things. I mean, barbershop quartets, all under the guise of economic development. These are the type of programs that we're going to bowl and doge. We're going to get rid of, and we're going to replace with things like fixing our local roads and funding public safety and education.
So I guess to kind of further the question here, is the House using its time well moving bills that are going to be dead on arrival in the Senate
Yeah.
when there is a constitutional obligation to pass a budget?
Well, there's a constitutional obligation to do it in September 30th. And actually, you know, it's interesting. Some people tell me there's not a constitutional obligation to do it, but there is an obligation because the money runs out. So you got to do it by September 30th in order to have your fiscal year start. But I would just say, and you know, I read Craig's tweet. He says, There's 28 bills in the House this week, and, are there bills, aren't they? You think it's committee hearings? Have there been 28 committee hearings this year in the Senate? I don't know. I don't know either. I mean, they're barely here. But I just say, you know, there's a lot of activity in the House, and we're working on a lot of really important things, and you're going to see these budget bills come out, and then you're going to see very transparent process as we go through them, and we're going to be looking at these earmarks in the hearings. It's going to be a lot of fun. So it's going to take a little longer, but you're going to get a much better product. If we just do it real fast, it's going to look the way it's always done. And I'm telling you, and you know I'm the only outsider in leadership in Lansing, and I'm looking at this, and we can't keep doing it the same way the politicians have been doing it. That's how you grow government 43% and you don't have enough funding for your local roads. And that's why 67% of people say we agree with Matt Hall's roads plan.
You mentioned the budget figures that the governor introduced in the Senate, 80.4, I think you said, and 80.7. Do you have a figure for what your budget's going to be?
I'll just say that you're going to see it introduced, and it's going to be lower than those numbers.
Will it be lower than the current budget?
I think so, yeah. I mean, our goal is, I mean, if we're going to reverse the Democrat income tax hike, it's got to be lower than the current budget. And then the other thing is, 'cause you're going to see in there, we're going to fund our roads, right? I mean, I saw, you know, Live and Good, he's not very, I mean, Mauger is probably more fair to me than Live and Good. Even Live and Good in his tweet admits that, I mean, who's ever heard of a $3 billion placeholder? I've never heard of that. They have no plan to fix the roads, so they put $3 billion placeholder in their budget. Yeah, this is Live and Good. This is the nicest thing he's ever written. It says, Michigan Senate Democrats want a $3 billion road funding plan, except they haven't come up with a way to pay for one dime of it. Unusual placeholder in the MDOT budget that came out of the Senate Appropriations Subcommittee yesterday. So I would say rather than just passing a budget fast, maybe they could pass a budget that shows us how they're going to pay for this, and is it going to be raising taxes, right? I mean, we've done the math. We've shown you how we're going to fund the roads. They're just going to shove it to us as fast as possible without the details so that they can message that they passed a budget. Any other? All right. Well, thank you, reporters. This was a great press conference. Do you like it better with the notes, or would you like it better without the notes? Thorough? Yeah. We even got an Elena tweet in there, which was pretty cool. People like that. Thank you, everybody.